worms and all
I hope you're talking about fishing.
Oh,
Yeah, he
this
is.
great. So I'm gonna great story. Dog is trying to eat this big ass fish. He's moving back and forth. And if I lean down, I lose my satchel with all my stuff. Who falls in the water.
Great.
So I grabbed this thing, and so I'm this deep in the water with one hand, got the rod held up in the other. The fish is over here, his mouth out of the water, and your dog's coming swimming over here as fast as I can. It was a miracle that I got this fish out. Cool. Just a miracle. Hey man,
Was it a bass? What was it?
yeah, good one. Yep.
I got all the pictures. How's it going?
It's going well, man. Can't complain. How you guys doing today?
Good, man.
Good.
I like the background, man. His is a little cleaner than ours, you know?
Yeah, I
I
try to
like
keep
the
it simple.
barnwood and the, you know,
Uh-huh.
close enough.
Well, I'm Mark. I've happy to be here. I'm helping this I'm helping this UK company come into America. That's kind of what I'm doing. Trying to make it a little bit easier for lenders to get income insights and move things along, speed up the process, get a little bit of the friction out of the way, save a little bit of cost for some of the lenders, and make it a better user experience.
So hard pulls, soft pulls, all that great payroll information, all that fun, the great problems that we all deal with, and all the digital workflows and all that stuff.
Right. It's essentially confidence in consumer stated income.
Mhm.
So instead of having to do any one of those things you just talked about, I would call, like, if you think about credit-based lending as a DTI metric, it's attempting to make the I even easier and more seamless than anything else out there.
And what happens is, because we've always done it this way, and we're going to go through this, it's just, and it's slow and it's the old way. And then up come these little companies that say, hey, you can plug in your face and we'll give you the money.
Can I
It doesn't
tack
take
this a
much.
little bit? Let's talk, look, buy now, pay later. I think obviously a big topic. Probably those of us on this call that have been in banking for a long time have looked at that one with a little bit of a snicker and a grin for a couple of years.
Yeah,
And you're
the
seeing,
bankers call it buy now because you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You
So, I mean,
shouldn't
look,
afford this.
similar to a credit card, a payday loan, right? Now, of course, CFPB is chasing them down, and
Right.
all the fintechs are out there, you know, telling everybody how bad the banks are and that they're the good guys. And all of us from the banking side look at it and laugh, right? Most of the time, they don't know any better.
Something went wrong.
Siri's pissed at me. Watch out.
What did you do?
I sat on her. Sorry.
So get off me.
Yeah. So you look at this interesting side of the world and the fintech side and what all they're doing. It just seems a little bit odd and off to me that they're actually driving a lot of the change that we're seeing in the bank space, because they don't have we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's funny, but it's something, you know, everything you're describing, it smells to me like something the fintechs would dive on, which would actually pave the way for the bankers to be like, well, they're doing it, they're having success, they're kicking our ass.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do it too. Are you seeing that kind of thing going on too?
I mean, that's certainly, I would say, from a marketplace perspective, that's where we're getting all of our beta interest. I mean, absolutely spot on, right? Yeah. It's easier to talk to them in some ways because they have newer technology. So building in newer APIs is a little bit easier. But obviously, if you want to scale, that's not the way you scale either. So you really, you bump into both. Like, do I want to talk to Jack Henry, who's got thousands of customers, and maybe it's a harder, longer sell, or do I want to talk to FinX, blah blah blah, whatever, who is really hot right now and is changing the world because they're always changing the world, right? Where it might be an easier, shorter term sell. So you have to kind of look at both of them, right? You got to put the work in on both sides. That's just kind of the way I look at it.
It's been interesting for us. I sometimes not sure how to feel about it, right? I think a lot of the software kind of playing a little bit on both sides. And I think you make a good point. It's definitely playing with the fintech side of the world a little bit to get things going. I mean, if you've got, a difficulty with the bank side, but as soon as people are finding success with the fintechs, they're popping over pretty quick, right? And all of a sudden, all the bankers, and all the cores want to play and everything else. So it's an interesting proving ground.
I mean, it's super cool when you think about like the 30 years of decision science, right? And early on, I mean, probably AMS CGI, some of those very early rules engines started bringing everything in-house, giving the banks a ton of flexibility. And then over time, that flexibility became too cumbersome to move out. So you had the blends, you had the amounts of the world come in and say, we're not going to mess with that anymore. We're just going to give you a layer on top to make it easier. So it has been very cool to see this, fintech that's coming in, that's really just about making it easier for banks and not just going in and complaining about, oh, well, you take too long to change something. Instead of complaining, recognize that they've got 2,000 branches and it's really hard to make a change. It's not that simple. So coming up with creative software that is more of an API plugin, something that's XML that sits on top that you can work through. I mean, that's why you see these things that's why you see like Blend just take off, because it's super intuitive and it lets them reach a very large swath.
Absolutely.
I like Blend a lot.
Yep.
One of the things that I've really noticed is there's been, and again, look at the numbers, look at the data, which nobody seems to, but they act like they do. And we'll notice that FinTech direct to consumer, man, this is hot. Let's go there. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like not quite so cool as we thought it would be.
Well, you're going to need $1 gazillion in marketing.
That's it. Mm-hmm. And so you start to begin to see a shift with, so APIs, everybody can get an API to do whatever they need to do from somebody, depending on what you're trying to get done, it's out there. Yeah. If not, create it and you'll get rich. Okay. So now we get to, let's talk about a better distribution model, particularly on financial things. So we can go buy now, pay later. We can do all these things. And then here comes the CFPB, right? All right. Or something's going to come bite you, even if you're successful. If you're successful, they're going to come after you. So that's that. Then we go back to, let's just use the banks as a distribution model for our new financial product. Stop right there. Really, this is the new norm. This is how things are going to get done. And you'll notice every one of the cores that are, let's call it easy accessible APIs that are more consumable. It's not such a big API. It's not really complicated. It's here's your balance pool. Here's, transaction history or whatever. Okay. So you use Jack or FIS or Fiserv or anybody else you want to talk about. They've got, DCI is another one. You've got people out there that are really, focused on that area of their business so that their bankers now have a tool that makes it easier. So in comes new FinTech guy, rather than go direct to consumer, they're looking at this saying, how do we get through the banks as a distribution model to get to the consumer? Well, then comes all the compliance and all the other parts of that. So for everybody watching that doesn't know what we're about to talk about, AFT. Oh yeah. AFT is a group.
Association Financial Technology.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Go to aftweb.web. aftweb.com, sorry. This is a group of CEOs of technology companies that all get together twice a year and figure out how to take over the world. So part of this is driven with a lot of the cores from the banking industry and a lot of the infrastructure players there as well. So it's a pretty neat place to kind of put everybody in the same room and sit down and have this. And Mark is part of the digital group there, and you're leading a discussion about that, the next upcoming event. And one of the things that I've kind of, again, back to this discussion a little bit of what we just talked about, as we see this shift towards let's take our new technology, and we're seeing a more willingness and a more easier process to get that to the banks through the core APIs and things like that. As this becomes better and better, what the banks have had to offer today is, hey, go to my mobile banking or go to my online banking, and this is your customer digital front face. All right. And now all of a sudden, well, there's all these other cool products and neat things out there. If we can take these cool products into the banking space with what you call micro journeys, right?
Yep.
And these smaller things along the way that are part of the process, and then that gets a better distribution channel for the technology through all of the banks. And if it's a customer facing technology, ultimately that becomes a distribution model for that technology to get to the actual customer, and still interfacing through the core and staying within the technology limits. So when you have this next meeting of that, tell me what you guys talk about. What is it? Are these the type of topics that we're looking for?
Oh, that's so great, right? I mean, yeah, I was just going to kind of like laughingly say, like, best case scenario, I work with Aire and Atomic Fi, build a joint solution that tackles the world, and then, oh, how do I distribute it? I reach out to Narmi and like Alchemy, so it's like, just like you're saying, like what is so great about AFT is I can work with the core, but 3 cool fintechs can come together, build a better solution, and then go to the next table and talk to the guy that owns the core and say, hey, Mr. Walters, do you want to build this in? And we've already solved the whole problem. Is there a difference between cryptocurrency, blockchain, distributed ledgers? Just tell me what this even means. Like, let's just start at the base and help me understand what this even means and where is this going? And is it really the way of the future?
Yes. Short answer.
I tend to think it is, right?
I guarantee it. Yeah. This is where if you haven't seen me much lately, audience, this is where I've been for what, 6 or 8, 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody doesn't see me or I'm invisible, it's because he's put me on the secret mission. This is what I live, breathe, and do all day, every day, neck deep. I think everything else is, let me just leave it at this. Everything you think that, everything that's familiar to all of us, it's all going to change.
Is it right?
System is going to change.
Right. We're going to have a 180-degree about face over the next 5 years.
Yeah, we're working on some pretty cool secret projects.
It's very good. We'll leave it at that, but
okay.
Exciting, good change for everybody. And I think it'll be
Hopefully
something everybody can participate in. I don't think crypto is something to be afraid of or scared of. I think it's going to be a good thing.
Super cool plug for NYDIG. They've had great successes. They're a big name in the process. And, they're going to take care of the custodial side of the asset for you. So you get to have all the cool benefits without having to hold all that.
Yep.
I think
I've said 100 times, I really like NYDIG on the custodial side. I like Unify Money on the trading side. A lot. And there's a bunch coming in just 50 other cool areas. And I think payments and, the Visas and the MasterCards are having a lot of conversations.
And a very important point for the bankers of the world out there, which is where the rubber hits the road on this issue. You don't have to buy crypto, hold the custodial crypto, and then take a risk with that. That's not what anybody's asking.
To work a closed loop.
They're just saying, when we talked earlier about using FinTech as a distribution model through the banks, right? Same issue here. Right now, the consumer is going to go over here to crypto banking. Well, we could have consumer go through their banking and then branch off and be able to
just a little closed loop off of that.
And it's not that incredible. The benefits and the cool part of all of the crypto systems and everything that comes with it is not the consumer facing piece of that. That's not the difficult part of it. That's accessible, whether it's NYDIG or Unify Money. But being able to say, okay, what's the technology streams behind this that would be an alternative to our current system to decrease fraud or cut some costs.
The single greatest problem with cryptocurrency is the word currency. Mm-hmm. They should call it crypto technology, right? Yeah, okay. The technology is the play. Nothing to do with assets, currencies, securities. If they put all that aside,
the new digital monetary system.
Yeah, if they called it the new internet, we all would have gone, right? Yeah, and Coinbase is basically the new stock market.
Right?
Easier way to think about.
Mark, last question for you, man.
Final thoughts.
Yeah, last question I got is, I've probably spent a lifetime trying to show people when people are like, well, why does this work that way? I'm like, well, once upon a time, there were 3 bears. And if you kind of understand how we got from point A to point B, the whole debit processing is, I get it now. It was
I call it the history book.
So if you start from scratch and said, let's rebuild the system, what a lot of people call first principles, I think that's really what we're talking about with the whole crypto digital, monetary system here. What are your thoughts on that, and how I want you to relate that back to the AFT discussion?
Yeah, and credit in what you're doing. That would be what I would want to know is, do you feel like what you're doing at Aire is a better use of that first principles of rethinking how these things are done?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would go back to the question of why am I here, right? I mean, because there is nothing left from a lending perspective to be squeezed out of the credit file. I've bought all the alternative bureaus. I've created the trended velocity variables. I've introduced ML techniques to get even more specific. At some point in time, if this is your box, you can't put anything else in it. You just have to make the box bigger. So kind of going back to those first principles. And then even the thing you said about, well, I've always done it this way. Why do I need to give you a pay stub for you to give me $17,000 to go buy a fishing boat? In fact, you've got my entire DDA relationship with you. I've got $38,000 in your savings account. Obviously, I can afford it. Why are you wasting my time and your money when through a quarter of a millisecond, I can just tell you this person's good? That simple.
All of this rolling into your discussion with the AFT crowd and trying to get these technology leadership in a room together to try to change some of these things. What are you trying to achieve?
What am I trying to achieve? I am trying to get just one person in the room to really believe in what I'm saying, that we can make a difference. Because that's like, you're not going to come in as a new company from an external part of the world and change the world. Like, you're going to come in and you're going to change one customer. You're going to get one person to say, this really actually worked. It saved me X, whatever benefit it did. And that's the way you have to kind of start to look at momentum and the success you're having is, I'm not going to win Capital One, and that's okay, but I might win bank X, Y, and Z that are smaller, that are going to help me win banks C, D, and E that are bigger, right? So it's all about those steps and building that foundation. And that's exactly where I'm hoping that I can utilize AFT.
Well, I love that message, and it's a great place to wrap up, Mark, for the bank side. This is the beauty for community banks. To be more nimble and to be those awesome upfront earlier partners that are early adopters of things like you, so that the community banks can be on the foreground of winning with the cool stuff rather than chasing the big banks. How silly is this, right? I think that all the new evolution of everything is a great opportunity for community banks.
I was like literally just on the phone with a potential investor, and we were talking about kind of how things are starting to change, right? And one of them was like, can you empower the bank? And I know you guys are talking about earlier, and I'm definitely going to plug a fellow AFT company. I think that what Aire is doing, which is like, stop going to Credit Karma and giving them all of your money. Let's take what we're building, put it on your side. And then when your customer, who is already your own customer, you don't have to spend money doing lead acquisition. You don't pay Credit Karma money. You don't pay somebody else money. You just build in, and we pre-qualify and let people know this is what is good for you. I think that's like, if you want to talk about kind of wrapping a lot of things up in this conversation, that's something that's new, that's empowering the banks to not spend as much money doing their own like marketing.
I love it.
I think I got them all together.
That was great, man.
Cut costs, make more money. That's what it's all about. And do it faster than a big bank can. Thanks for riding with us today. That was good.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful holiday. Looking forward to seeing you in
Mahalo.
March.
Yes. We'll see you there.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.